So for all of you guys new to Agent Launch University, it started and it came from how I used to train my team. So I just took everything I did to train my team and I translated it for our brokerages. So this is no exception. This is how I would introduce walking into the listing process with my team. And this is just going to kind of be an overview of all of the steps involved in how we do them, minus the actual listing presentation. Okay. And then the next one is that's all it is, the actual listing presentation. So feel free to jump in and ask questions and clarifications and all that. And Lena's gonna, co-teach this with me. So she'll jump in too from time to time as well. So the important thing is, and I would take notes on this anything I teach, I preface it by saying this is how I did it. It is not the only way. It is very well suited, though, to our market here in the Puget Sound, right? Because this is where I made my, I've done my business. If we were in another market, there might be better adaptions. This I know works here. So I always classify my meetings in 3 different ways. And the reason I do that is it's important for all of us to track our numbers and to track conversion. And you're going to most likely have different conversions. Now, I know a lot of agents who actually disagree with this. They say, no, that doesn't work that way. You don't get to do that. You should have a blended average of all of yours and just have one universal conversion number. And I don't disagree with that, actually. I think that simplicity is often best. And I encourage you to do that. For me, I did both. I sort of had a universal conversion number just so that I could use that for mapping. But I also wanted to know, how did I do converting a straight ahead? Well, I'll go through the 3 different kinds. I wanted both. So I did track both. In fact, I should include it in here. I can show you guys a spreadsheet of how I track my appointments. But the first one is a listing presentation. And that's what you guys hear a lot in training, just a listing presentation. How I define that is the seller has decided for sure they're going to sell. Now it's just a matter of what agent are they going to use, right? That's a listing presentation. So the seller their intent is to sell, and it's just a matter of who, not if, right? What I call a CMA appointment or a comparative market analysis appointment is the seller's deciding whether they want to sell or not. So the intent is not necessarily decided. These were, by the way, my highest conversion. They also took the longest oftentimes. Now, they didn't always take a long time, but I have 4-year conversions on these because while it's a high conversion, if you stay with them and you keep your follow-up game strong, which is the secret to this industry, I'm just giving you the cliff notes. If you want to be a really good real estate agent, have a really good follow-up game. But they usually won't shop you around because if you've worked with them for a while, getting their house prepared, helping them make decisions, they will often, there's like a guilt, a law, it's called the law of reciprocity in sales psychology. They will often, it's almost a given they will hire you as long as you stay with them. Not always, but it's a given. Hillary, you experienced that in a way. That agent probably had done some work on their behalf. That agent had probably done CMAs in the past or given them advice on what countertops to use. And because of that, it's an ingrained law of reciprocity that you experienced firsthand on the other end, right? So it's strong on both ends, right? And we can break that. That gets into sales psychology, but you can break that law of reciprocity. A lot of what we do, by the way, guys, in the listing process is you almost want them to feel guilty that you've done so much work on their behalf. It's a good sales psychology. So just put that in your head a little bit. The third is the FISBO, and I always classified this different, but I converted it. So basically, I would go on the FISBO appointment and I would just track my FISBOs, right? Because I like FISBOs. But I would then convert that. I would say, okay, did that end up being a CMA or a listing presentation? And I would often convert it up into one of the two. So if I got to the FISBO and I was ready to go, and I had a good pre-qualification call with them, which we're going to go through in a bit, And I said, hey, would it be okay? We talked about, I know that you're gonna list with an agent if it doesn't sell in 30 days. I'm here. Would it be okay if we sat down and we just talked about what that would look like? And I was often able to turn that into a listing presentation. And then I would go, when I got in my car, I would, put in my tally marker and say, no, that was a listing presentation, right? So that's a little fuzzy, and it just depends if you work FSBOs. I went on a ton of FSBO previews though. And so I also wanted to have like a parallel tracking of how many previews I went on and how many agreements I got signed and how many closings I got. Does that make sense? So I don't want to overcomplicate it for you. It's hard enough to get any salesperson to do any type of tracking, but over time, I was able to have processes and systems for 3 different types of appointments. And that's why it was important for me to do it on top of tracking my numbers. It was both reasons, right? Okay, so there's 3 types of listing appointments. 2 seconds. I'm not seeing Hannah on here. Robin, is Hannah not on here?
Robin stepped away for 1 second.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that Hannah was on here.
Do you want me to message her?
Yeah, I just did it. Sorry. Okay. Okay. The second thing I'm just going to kind of point out some baseline definitions so that we all are kind of talking the same language. There are 2 types of listing appointments in my book. There's the 1-step or the 2-step. It sounds like a dance whenever I'm saying that. 1 and done. You go, you meet with them, you walk out with a signed listing appointment, right? Those are ideal. Those are great. But there are some properties that you don't get signed the first time, and I call those a 2-step listing appointment. And I wanted to kind of talk about why you would do one versus the other. By the way, if you're going to write anything down, if you're taking notes, 1-step listing appointments are the way to go. Okay. Ideally, you walk in a house, you close them, you get the paperwork signed. I want to be crystal clear. Okay. Exceptions are, and there's never an exception. Always do that. If you go to the White House and do a listing presentation, certainly try to close, but many times it takes 2 steps. So most of my experience in my entire career and a large part of my portfolio and my business is luxury. Most of the time on a high priced and luxury property, it is a 2-step listing presentation. I try to make it 1 though. It's not an excuse to not get it signed on the first one, but often it's because the properties are extraordinarily complicated to price and you really do have to go see them in person. So I want you to think of it this way. When you're thinking of a 2-step listing presentation, the first appointment is your presentation. You close in that appointment, you do the whole thing. The only thing left on the second step is to get them signed if you weren't able to the first time and go over pricing and the home prep checklist. Okay, so we're going to walk through that. You simply cannot price some homes unless you see them in person first. It's virtually impossible. So sometimes what I was able to do, by the way, guys, is I would have an appointment with both decision makers, on say a Saturday. And then sometimes what I would do when I was able is I would say, hey, is there any way I could pop by in the next few days, during the week to go see the house? Would one of you be able to be home to show me around? That way I can come prepared this weekend with pricing. And that's kind of like a 1.5 step, right? Where it's like I'm kind of doing a preview so that I can go and close them. So for whatever reason, sometimes if I'm able to close somebody fast into an appointment, and by the way, you do want to do that, the smaller the delta between setting an appointment and attending an appointment is the higher rate of them showing up. So if you set an appointment for an hour from now, you have the highest possibility of them showing up. If you set an appointment for tonight or the next day, it's still a pretty strong possibility they'll show up, but it's a little weaker than that. this weekend, next week, the farther you go out, the more chance you have someone's going to cancel. So my philosophy is always, if I can close for an appointment today or tomorrow, I should do that. So I just don't always have the time to go, preview the home ahead of time, which is why the two-step listing presentation had to happen. Again, the first meeting should be ideally, the closing should still be one and done. And the second one is just when you're solidifying price. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I just wanted to make sure that, that you're doing that. Those are some CMA notes that we're going to talk about when we do CMA. The other reason to do two-step is it's more of a CMA. They're a long time on time, or they're very open about the fact that there's a lot of work to do on the house, and they want your input on that. It's still, again, I still view it as, I'm going to go have my listing presentation, but I do know there's going to be follow-up, elements to it, and I'm probably not going to walk away with the listing paperwork. So I just wanted to, oh, sorry, what this slide is showing is what I was talking to you guys about earlier, where I would set the appointment, but then I would back into the preview ahead of time. Ideally, though, that appointment that you set, whether it's the first or second, is the listing appointment with both decision makers present. The pricing, if you have to follow up with pricing, try to get hired before you come back with price. You should be able to get hired. You should be good enough to get hired as someone's listing agent, guys, without giving them price. If you're getting hired on price, they're hiring you for your pricing. It's not the right value proposition for someone to hire a listing agent, right? They should hire you because they trust you and they know you can sell their house, and they know that you will set the right price, do the right marketing, and do the right negotiation. Does that make sense? Yep. All right. So I just wanted to kind of, okay. We're just talking here about realizing that you're still doing, your mindset is like, I've got one shot to do this listing presentation. There's just a second meeting buried in there, either ahead of time or after. That's what this is. Okay, we're gonna go through that in a minute. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, so we talked about the 3 different types of listing appointments. Listing appointment is when a seller is for sure going to sell, but they have to decide what agent. Second one is a CMA, and that is they don't know if they want to sell. They're seeking information from you on what their pricing would be and what they would have to do to their house to sell, right? So you're part of that decision-making process. The third one is a for sale by owner preview that often turns into 1 or 2. Okay. We talked the second one about reasons to do a 2-step listing presentation. The third kind of concept I want to talk about in this whole process, and then we'll bring it all together, is the pre-qualification phone call. So this is extraordinarily important. It's really how you can show up and close somebody. So what you do on the pre-qualification is really, really important. And I'd like you to really focus on this because it's a piece a lot of people miss. So Lena, if you and I are talking, and let's say you're referred to me, and you, why don't we role play a little bit? So Lena, someone referred me to you, and you're thinking about selling your house. You want to sell your house.
Yeah.
So ring, ring. Hey, Lena, this is Keller Williams. Susie Smith said that you guys are thinking about selling your house. I'd love to talk with you about that.
Oh yeah, we definitely are looking to sell here pretty soon.
When are you thinking about doing that?
I heard springtime was good. What do you suggest?
Well, I mean, where would you move? What's your plan?
We're moving out of state, and we're not in like a super big rush, but I know the market's hot, so I see a ton of houses selling really fast. So we just want to make as much money as we can. So
you're kind of taking advantage of the market right now?
Totally.
Do you have a destination yet?
Yeah, my husband's family's back east.
Okay, so back east, your husband's family is back east. You want to time the market. Do you have any type of a deadline? Do you have schools or? Anything?
I mean, yeah, my kids are in school, so we could wait till summer, but we don't really mind pulling them out now and transferring
Okay.
them.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. So, yeah, today is Thursday, right? Today is Thursday. What are you around this weekend? Are you around Saturday?
We have something Saturday evening. I could meet Sunday.
Oh, Sunday works for me. So here's what is next. What we're gonna do, Lena, is I'm gonna walk you through some questions right now on the phone and
Okay.
learn a little bit more about your house. Yep. And then on Sunday, is your husband available too on Sunday? You guys are available together?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
We can both meet.
So we'll meet on Sunday, and you guys are going to give me a tour of the house. We're going to do a walkthrough. Don't worry about cleaning. It's not about that, right? And we're going to just go through, see if there's I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and we do that, and we're going to see if there's anything maybe we need to do to maximize value, and then we'll sit down together and kind of walk through what the process looks like and pricing. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, perfect. So noon on Sunday works for you well.
It's perfect.
Good. All right. So while I have you here, Lena, let me just grab a pen and paper and let's start going through your house. So first of all, what's your address? Blah, blah, blah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And when did you buy it, Lena?
We bought it 10 years ago.
Okay. So right now, when Lena's saying that, I am pulling up her home on the MLS, most likely. So I'm looking for the old listing. Doesn't always happen, but usually it's there. If you're lucky, there's a bunch of pictures still in there. Sometimes you only see the exterior picture, but so that's great, right? So now I'm, okay, perfect. And I'm pulling it up and I'm looking through. I'm like, okay, 10 years. That tells me most people have done at least a bathroom in 10 years, right? So, so you can see that I prepared them, well, not to expect pricing. That's if we did a two-step. I actually did prepare her that we are going to talk about pricing, as you heard. And then what else did I do? Did you guys hear me kind of walk her through? This is what's going to happen at that meeting, right? So people do not like the unknown. They don't like open-ended agendas. So be sure you're leading them down the path and you're shepherding them down the path. So I said, look, this is what to expect on this phone call. I'm going to ask you some questions, and this is exactly what to expect Sunday. You have to manage expectations along the way and always give somebody the next step. All right. So, okay, so perfect. So Lena, I'm looking at pictures right now of when you bought the home 10 years ago. Tell me, have you done anything to the home since then?
Yeah, we painted the whole inside, replaced with the carpet.
So tell me a little bit about that, Lena. What color? Are there different colors? Is it all the same color?
So the interior is all the same. It's all agreeable gray. And then we did brand new carpet in all 3 bedrooms. Okay. And the rest of the house is updated vinyl floor.
And when did you do the flooring and the carpet?
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. So what colors are they?
The carpet?
Yeah. Any chance you could snap some pictures for me and
yeah, I'll just send them to you right now.
Okay. That would be awesome. If you can, and you're open to it, I'd love to see a couple of pictures, Lena, of the bathrooms and kitchen too.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Great. Okay, cool. So,
can I add in something really quick out of the state conversation? So when you said you pulled it up on the MLS, I just did this recently where I pulled it up on the MLS and there was only a picture of the front of the house. Yeah. And then I entered it in Redfin and there was a 3D walkthrough. So I actually saw the entire inside when there was no pictures on the MLS.
I've done that on Zillow before too, where they've actually stuck it on there, Yeah.
So
that's smart. That's really good. Okay. So I really want to know what they did to the house. And I really want to know kitchen and bathrooms and surfaces, adding an alarm system's fine, but I want to know, windows are fine. I want to know, like, am I going to walk into like a spick and span? It's really important. So I do ask a lot of questions. I freely ask for them to send pictures, especially if I'm in rapport. It's just a lot easier. Sometimes my dialogue might be, hey, Lena, like as we're going through it all, okay, tell me about the kitchen. And let's do it right now. So Lena, so you said you updated the kitchen. Can you kind of tell me what you guys have done?
So we put in just a really big island and did a beautiful granite countertop on it and redid the cupboards.
And that's awesome. Well, if you're going to, I'd love to see pictures of that, Lena. That would be super helpful for me to see pictures. So then I could just know what they did, right? Okay, cool. And what made you guys buy the house? What do you like about it so much, Lena?
Oh, the yard.
Oh, okay.
The backyard is beautiful.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Do you have a kind of a target price in mind?
Well, our neighbor's house listed at 800,000 and they just closed for 1.1 million.
Yep. Yeah. So what are you thinking in there? How does your house?
I mean, I would love us to get over $1 million.
Over $1 million. Okay. I can't.
Our yard's better.
I can't wait to see it. So people say a couple of things, don't they, Lena? When you say, do you have a price in mind? Well, that's what you're for. That's what I'm bringing you over for, right? They say that sometimes. And I say, oh, I know. It's not going to affect my price. I'm just curious if there's a target in mind. I just keep pushing. I want to know what they are thinking. Why do you guys think that's important? Does it change your pricing?
It shouldn't.
No, but why do you guys think it's important to know what you're walking into?
Bueller.
Why do you guys think it's important to know what the seller is thinking about price?
You want to know where you're at next to that.
Yeah.
Are you coming in super low? Are you coming in super high? What are they expecting to make out of it?
How you deliver that and how you walk into that is really largely dependent on what their expectations are. So if they're thinking $2 million and you're about to tell them their house is worth 1.1, you're going to probably approach that differently than if they think it's worth 800 and it's worth 1.2, right? Okay. All right. So I go through a series of questions with Lena. I used to have a sheet, but I've done this for 20 years, so I don't have a sheet anymore. We have a sheet, Lena. We have a green sheet somewhere that we will dig up for them and Robin, that we will dig up and get to everybody that I used for years. We have a buyer pre-qual sheet and a seller pre-qual sheet that we used. I always want to know what their target price in mind. I always want to get an idea of what they think their timing is. That can change. That sometimes does change. I either pull up the old listing, or if I was unable to find the old listing, which does happen sometimes, I'll pull up the realist, right when they give me their address. And sometimes I'll get the address ahead of time with the referral, so it's all ready. And then I'll just kind of say, okay, Lena, well, I'm on the tax records and it's saying here, it's 4 bedrooms, 3 bath, 2460 square feet on a 16,000 square foot lot. Does that sound about accurate? Yeah. Sometimes they'll say, no, I did a remodel and we've had an appraisal. It's actually 2,800 square foot. You can, sometimes it's not accurate. So I always kind of like to know.
We just did the remodel. So no, added.
Yeah. No added square footage or anything. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you on Sunday. Lena, I'm curious, are you meeting with any other agents, or is it just me?
So we do have somebody that our neighbor recommended. So we are meeting with you and somebody else.
Okay, perfect. And are you meeting with me before or after them?
I haven't scheduled the time with them yet.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's good to know. All right. Well, we'll see you at noon on Sunday. Okay, great. So we do the pre-qualification phone call. Really, really important. You're trying to gauge the client's motivation, and you're trying to get as clear of an image as that house, including, photos or videos, if you can do it, because that's really going to help you walk in with a price. After that pre-qual phone call, I start pulling comps and doing the CMA. We do have a training on how to do a CMA. And I try to firm up price if I can before I enter the property. Again, without actually going by the property, I don't ever show up with a definitive number. I work in ranges, and I rarely show up by the way, to a listing appointment with any price range, even in writing, because I've been really wrong before. I just have been. I do show up though with net proceeds tucked into my folder. I always do a low, mid, and a high based on what I think. Sometimes I'll do 4 or 5 if I'm kind of unsure of the range, and I will pull the right 1 or 2 out to give them, or sometimes I won't if I'm off, because sometimes I'm just off. Sometimes I get to a property and I'm like, oop, this is way more than I thought, or this is not as nice, whatever. Nowadays, I find with Google Maps, and it's a little bit of a different world now than when I first started real estate, it's just easier and easier to get access to this information. And for all of you newer agents, the listing appointments are a really big deal. They are kind of the biggest deal in your life right now, in your work. So you should be driving by and doing your best to do your upfront research. It's just really good training for you to do as much of the upfront research as possible and to get better at that. So I would encourage you to drive by and just get as tight as you can, but never ever show up without it's always a range. You just don't know until you get in a house and until you walk through a house. There's so many things. Things come out like, oh, we need a new roof. There's things just come out, and you just need to not tie yourself to a number until you've done a thorough walkthrough, in my opinion.
Vita, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So if you're doing your upfront research and you're doing like a drive-by, at least of the outside, what if it's in a gated community with security? And like, I'm just wondering, like,
You can't do it then.
Okay.
So that's when being a neighborhood expert. Okay. So if you have gated communities in your neighborhood, it's a great question. You pay particular attention to when those are brokers open, when there's brokers opens, when there's open houses, or when there's listings, trying to get appointments to preview those homes so that you're prepared for those at-bats. That's what I recommend. Trying to get to know those neighborhoods is really important. So the one that sticks in my mind is for any of our Kirkland agents here on the call today, Sahali. Go try to see as many homes as you can in Sahali, because there's a guard at the gate there, right? So the more you can kind of preview and understand the different neighborhoods, when that call, if that's your area you want to work, when that call happens, you're ready. Previewing is one of the most important activities you can do. Yeah, good question. So when you show up on a listing appointment, these are just some general tips and concepts. I do park in the driveway, but I don't block. So I should have probably retyped this. I don't want to pull straight in, especially if I know if it's 5 or 5:30 and a spouse isn't home yet. I'm going to probably politely park on the street and walk in. I don't presume to take up a spot in the driveway unless it's pretty clear, unless it's a steep driveway. I want to be respectful of that and not have a spouse come. I've had it happen where they come home. It's like 6 o'clock at night, they've had a 10-hour day, and then you're blocking they can't even get in their own garage, right? So I just try to be careful about that, and be respectful of that. So it's not a don't park in the driveway. It's just to be aware of that. Right?
Yeah, I never do. Never.
I wouldn't say never, but I typically won't. Yeah. So I often carry shoe covers or little footy socks in my purse. And I make a little bit of a show to walk in the house, either right outside or right inside, take my shoes off and put those on. If they are super insistent that I won't, but 80% of the time, it's just my comfort level is to take shoes off in someone else's house. It's just an ingrained habit I have. Again, not always. If they're insistent and I'm looking around and the house is not, I won't. but
you still always ask, right? Like I always at least ask.
No, I don't ask. I just do until they stop me. So I pretty much make a show of like, I'm going to take my shoes off, Lena. I'm going to put on my, footies or whatever I have. I used to have these super cute little flats that they're like little foldable flats. I don't have.
Oh yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, because I don't sell as many homes anymore, but so up to you guys. That's just what I do. Okay, so this is a biggie for me. in every area, in your area, you know, Olympia, you have a lot of military and government workers. Here in the East Side, we have a lot of tech workers, right? In Bellingham, you've got, you know, some retirees, you got some Canadians, you know, every area has their, so Boeing, you know, and like Everett and Marysville, so every area's got their specialty. I have just picked up over the years what they talk like. So here at Keller Williams, you guys are, a lot of you are new. We have our own language. Like we use words. Are you starting to notice that? Like acronyms and words and everything. But so does Microsoft, so does Amazon, so does Facebook. They all strong cultures have their way of talking. And I remember the phrase optics, you know, I don't know, it was like 7 years ago, 6 years ago, everyone just started using that phrase. Like, I don't like the optics of that. Now it's part of our common vernacular and we don't think about it, but it kind of came around like maybe 6, 7 years ago. And I just noticed a lot of my Microsoft and Amazon clients were talking like that. I don't like the optics of that, or what are the KPI? I just started hearing them talk, and I would mirror and match and reflect that back to them. Because my whole stance on being a listing agent is I always want my clients to think of me the same way they would think of a consultant coming into their office. And by the way, on a side note, I always dress like that. So if I have typically in Seattle and my whole area, I will dress 1 or 2 steps up from what I think my clients are going to be dressed up as, but I won't be 10 steps up. Because I think if I were a consultant at Amazon or Facebook or Microsoft, how would I show up to the offices? I'd be a little bit better dressed than my colleagues, but not so over the top. I probably wouldn't be wearing an Armani suit and Louboutin 4-inch heels, right? So I try to think of how I talk and how I present myself as how would, you know, someone that Amazon is paying to come in as a consultant, you know, how would they show up? And that's how I think of showing up. So I talk like that. So I try to talk like them so that they're immediately comfortable. I was just on a mastermind with Chris Suarez right before this. And he was talking about there's 5 different biases that we all have. And one of them is the similarity bias. And we are subconsciously biased towards people that are like us. So if you dress in a way that makes someone feel comfortable and talk in a way that makes them feel comfortable, they don't even realizing it, but they're comfortable with you. So I've always believed that, right? So just a little side note, I don't want to digress too much. There you go. Dress 1 or 2 steps more formally. So when I was actively selling homes, I always had a pair of hunter boots, the rubber boots in my trunk and again, this may not be relevant if you're a West Seattle or North Seattle agent and all you do are urban condos, this wouldn't be relevant, but for those houses that have big lots or acreage, right, or horse properties. And so I have won many listings by saying, let's go walk the property and go into my, you know, bring in the boots on, because I literally remember I won a $2.5 million listing. They go, no, they were like, we interviewed 5 agents, not one agent offered to go walk the property that means so much to us that we think is so much part of the value, right? So it's always just been my thing. Like, you know, I want to learn every inch of that property that I'm going to potentially be representing. I'm going to need to learn it anyway. I'm going to have to show it. I'm going to have to, you know, talk about it. I certainly need it to price. So I was just always prepared. I had my little footies for my, you know, walking in the house and taking my shoes off, and I had my wellies in my trunk. And I encourage you to think that way. Think about having your car as your mobile office that way. It's kind of funny now that I think about it. Oh, sorry, my little animation, a little funky here. Okay. Go to the next one. Okay, so when we get to the home, right? So now we've had the pre-qualification. If you're really on their game, they've already received a packet from you. I sometimes did that, sometimes didn't. I was inconsistent with that. But you get to the home, and now both decision makers are there if there's more than one decision maker. And the first thing I did is the walkthrough. Now, my belief and my success in listing has always been, I like to do the walkthrough with the homeowner. I like them to lead it. We have a training at Keller Williams that specifically states not to do that. It specifically states that to ask the homeowner to have you go do the walkthrough on your own. That's great. And if it works for you, all power to you. For me, this is a really important part of my process. Absolutely, I'm going to do this walkthrough with them. Caveat, you're going to have to rein it in. Some people, they want to make this a long time. It's just too long of an appointment. So get good at kind of keeping the pace up on these. And you can do that with physically starting to lead into new rooms if they're taking too long. But I ask a ton of questions. I am extraordinarily engaged in this. I try to, show off a little bit. I try to point out things that I think they're probably wanting me to notice, right? So when I walked through, I remember I walked through a professional athlete's house and I was with his house manager and I was like, oh, these are great. The Miele, built-in espresso machines are great. How do you like yours? I've had these at 2 or 3 of my listings this year and my sellers love them. But they say they're a bear when they break down. They're hard to find a repairman for, whatever. So I'll kind of throw things out that I'm noticing. Another example is, I'll walk through a luxury home that has a central back and I might go, oh, I'm assuming there's kick plates down there, and I'll try to find the kick plates around the, stuff like that. That's all I mean. Just to show that you're comfortable in this product and you know this product enough to proactively look and anticipate for things, right? And that comes with previewing, guys. That comes with a lot of previewing. It's important that you kind of know your script. Once the walkthrough is done, you don't want to just go, okay, and kind of stand there awkwardly. You want to know your script and say, okay, perfect. Let's sit down and discuss some things. And you want to be definitive. You want to lead this meeting and you want to lead it to the next step, which is, at the dining room table or the kitchen table or wherever you're going to do it, right? So be sure that you're practiced and you understand there's a transition script to take this and go. Like, I'm in charge. Oh, wherever you want. Yeah, do you want to go sit down? Okay. And again, it can sound a little bit differently, but if we're walking through, Lena, and we're kind of wrapping up, I'm like, great. Well, Lena, I want to keep moving on because I want to, have enough time for us to sit down and go through all this stuff. So are you ready to go sit down in the dining room and talk about all this?
Yeah.
And we'll do that. Sometimes the other decision maker has not gone on the walkthrough with you. That's when you want to pull them in, by the way. Okay. I always accept a drink now. Diana Kokoska taught me that. And she's the one who created this training we have called Bold. And I used to say no because I didn't want to trouble anybody. But the psychology is if they offer you something to eat or drink and you say yes, they are serving you. And they are therefore subconsciously, they're accepting that they're serving you. I thought it was brilliant psychology. So every time I get offered food or drink, I say yes. That's just my thing now. From Diana Kokoska. I really, really try to do this 20 or 30 minutes max. We do not need this to drag on any longer. So hopefully the whole thing's an hour max, if not 45 minutes. I start every single meeting, we're seated at the table. And I start every single meeting either with a laptop that I'm going to turn around or paper, depending, with trend graphics, the language of real estate lore. So how that goes is Lena, we're sitting down. That was a great walkthrough. What a great house. So much more than I could see on the computer, Lena. When I looked it up, I totally see why you guys love it. I know you're anxious about price. That's what everyone's anxious about. Before you tackle me on price, I just want to spend a few moments, Lena, briefly going over the market. The context of everything we're about to talk about is the market, right? And we just need a baseline discussion around it just for a few minutes. I promise you it won't be boring. I promise. But I just need to spend a few minutes on that, kind of explaining what this looks like. And then I'll pull out my trend graphics and then I'll say, you notice I'm not even looking at my slide right now. I have done this for a decade or longer, just constantly. So Hillary, what you're seeing in front of you is a graph, right? So I know that you've been hearing about the market at work. I know you've been hearing about it with, your mom friends at work. What are you hearing about the market right now, Hillary?
I'm hearing that the market is hot right now. It's a great time to sell. And there's not enough homes on the market, so the price could be raised for my home.
Yeah, so you're hearing that your neighbors are getting multiple offers and selling for way over. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So what I want to do is I want to talk about what that looks like on paper really quickly, like how that translates to how that translates to market statistics, because it impacts what we're going to do, what the decisions we're going to make right now. It's going to impact our pricing and our timing and frankly, what repairs I think you should do to your house. Make sense?
Yep.
And that's really how I go into, people, they're internally rolling their eyes at like the thought of like, I don't want to take Econ 101 again, right? So we have a whole ALU or a whole class in our market centers just on presenting trend graphics. And again, because I told you today is the overview. We're not going to dive into the weeds in each of these sections, but learning how to present the language of real estate, whether it's trend graphics, you can use the ones on the MLS, it doesn't make a difference, but choosing 2 or 3 data points that you use over time. It has been in my 20-year career in real estate, I have had 20 years of presenting data to clients. Do you think you get just good at it? Yeah. Do you think that you actually internalize and learn the market when you do it time on task on time on task on time on task and every appointment for 20 years? Yeah, you do. Okay. So once we've gone through that, I'll go, Lena, does that make sense that we are in an extraordinary hot market where, there's ebbs and flows in that. And as you can see, we just have no inventory right now. And so there's really no end in sight. I expect it to be a really strong seller's market, but you see that it's really challenging for us right now to get the appropriate amount of data to give a pinpoint price. Right. So when you say, Lena, when you said on your phone the other day that your neighbors listed their house at 800 and it sold with 3 offers or 4 offers for 1.1, were you in your mind thinking, well, the agent underpriced it on purpose?
No, I just was thinking that
you were like everyone else says yes.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, yes, I was.
Good role play. Good. No, sometimes they say that. A lot of times they say that, and Lena, here's what I want to explain. The agent was not listing it that low on purpose. The challenge we're facing is, and then I'll draw a Sharpie lineup. The challenge we're facing is there's a trend line that's going up. Okay, and the day a house sells, the next day the price is going up, right? And it takes about 40 days right now to close a house. So by the time that house closes and the price is published, what's happened to there's a gap. There's a price gap already, right? So when that house is pending, we don't know what it sold for. So that house was pending at 800 for 40 days. So, there is a stair step that occurs. And when the prices are going up like that, that there's an incremental increase in list price, but there's also an incremental list price increase in sales price. So the trick in my mind, I do not believe in the strategy of underpricing a home. I just think that's dangerous. I will never price a home for you at a price lower than you're willing to take, right? So my strategy is to pinpoint it right square in the middle, right square where we think we're at some, market value or historic market value. And then my superpower is in leveraging that to get higher than list price and multiple offers. That's a different class, but you cannot underprice a house in this market with me. You just can't. I can leverage a house with 2 offers or more. I can leverage it and make 6 figures in an evening. So the issue is not underpricing. The issue is overpricing. Right. So we want to try to get it as close to where we see fair market value. And we're going to explain how I do that and what I do to do that a little bit later, Lena. But it's really important you see the market as I see it and as the agents see it and as the consumers are seeing it. They see it as very strong. There's a high expectation. They know they're going to have to pay, well for the house. Right. So we have to be smart in these decisions. We have to be smart with our timing. We have to be smart with our strategy right now, right? This is where hiring a good agent is everything and worth every penny, right? Every decision we make could be a swing of $25,000 right now. So it's important that we started with that trend graphics, right? So that we can make these decisions together. Now, guys, you use your own scripts. because some of you are newer, but this is what I know. What did I do just then? What am I always doing? Am I selling my value? Am I always selling my value? Yeah. Okay. We don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted that to sit with you for a minute, right? Now, I don't always go into, this is weird. You're going to think, what? I've taken all these classes and they have this whole sections on marketing. I don't go into a lot of marketing. My marketing is 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Lena, we do great marketing. We do fantastic marketing. And some of the things, you know, we're big believers in is photos on the internet. We have a amazing photographer. We're really great at staging. We provide all of our staging, photography, drone photography, walkthrough tours. All of that is provided as part of our service fee, right? So
staging, you say staging is provided?
It depends. That's a different. Yes, staging is provided. There's always a level of staging provided. Yeah. Let me just check here. Sorry. 1 o'clock. I'm just. I'll kind of staging varies on, you know, am I sitting in a big empty vacant house? That's a different conversation than if I'm sitting in a house that it's usually editing is the short answer on that, but we can talk about staging in a different time. So I'll kind of hit some fine points. This is very, very, very quick. And I walk through really what I'm trying to do is pre-handle objection handlers. And again, I'm skimming over this, guys, because we're going to do the full listing presentation in January and we only have 1 more minute. So I would say for the sake of this meeting, we're briefly going through marketing. Spend a lot of time on trend graphics. We're briefly going through marketing. We're going through the sources of how business comes to houses, right? Then I'm going to go into pricing. So pricing is doing a CMA and presenting a CMA is an entire agent launch university class, as is trend graphics, as is the listing presentation. So many segments of what we're talking about today are entire classes. So this is the overview today, right? But what I will say is that I think it's really important to get good at your scripts and get good at trial closes. So some of the trial closes I'll use is, Lena, is there anything that you have any questions about that we talked about today?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I'm going to wait and see what the other agent says and compare.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there anything I didn't cover that you were hoping I would?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. In talking to that other agent or your friend who referred them, are there things that they offered or discussed that I didn't talk about?
No.
Okay.
They didn't really tell me all the details of their meetings, but
yeah. Okay. So how do you feel? Are you, potentially excited to work together?
Yeah, I am excited.
Here's kind of where I am, Lena, based on everything we've talked about. I know you said your timeline is open. I feel very strongly, the Fed just announced yesterday, this is real world right now, you guys. Fed announced yesterday, we're going to have 3 rate hikes next year. That means the market is going to be insane prior to the first rate hike. There is nothing on the market. If you really meant that, I recommend actually that we talk about listing sooner rather than later. I think that we can get an extraordinarily high amount of activity on your listing. And the more listing based on the multiple offer strategy I talked about, the more activity and the more buyers I have to work with, the higher we can negotiate it up. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to propose that we actually list in January. Which means because winter is a factor with drone photography, which means what I'd really like to do is get my photographer on alert and get everything ready and prepared so that he can go with his drone the minute he has a weather break, and we can start preparing. Some of that. In order to do that, we need to kind of get some of the paperwork out of the way. Do you want to just go and do that now and kind of get it all lined up?
I do want to wait and see, I just really feel comfortable comparing the two. So So I need to wait till I meet with this other agent.
Is there something that that I didn't, is there something you're hesitating on that we talked about or didn't talk about?
No, I just,
Yeah,
like to hear what they have to say.
just hesitating. Okay, all right.
Maybe they're going to give me, maybe they'll give a rebate. I've heard that a little bit from some people.
Mm. I never hear people say that, by the way. I've never had anyone say
Oh, really? I actually have.
that. I haven't, no. Uh-uh. What, I'll have them ask for a discount, but if they're asking for a discount, they're agreeing to
Or
sign.
yeah, a discount. Yeah, sorry.
But if they're asking for that, then they're asking to sign, like, so. Yeah, I'm trying to think how that would come up.
Yeah, you're right. For a listing, yes.
So like, so if you were gonna say that, like if you wanted, well, I just
3% so high.
Yeah, 3% so high. Yeah.
If we sell for $1 million, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 30,000 just to you, and we have to pay the buy side.
So that I would say objection handling and everything, because it's 1:03 and I had a 1 o'clock appointment 3 minutes ago that is not waiting for me. What I would say is we should do a whole ALU on objection handling and just start, and it'd be fun. It'd be fun to have a panel on that one. Have a full-on panel.
Yeah.
Really fun. Yeah, we'll do that. Because there's so many ways I could go right now and we just don't have the time. but I think, trial closing is important, and just kind of making sure that you're isolating their objections in a very non-pushy, cheesy way is how I would wrap this up with a bow for the sake of timing today. And then we're gonna get into, then I move into my two-step thing. So hopefully that helped you guys with an overview, and again we'll kind of dive into the different things. And I know that there's Ignite and there's all these great classes we teach, but when I teach, it's real world, for better or for worse. It's exactly what I did and how I literally, this is how I show up to a client, how I show up to these. So I think there's some value in just seeing that kind of real play as a supplement to some of the other more textbook trainings, and I would encourage you guys to memorize scripts and use scripts. We all talk in scripts. Don't fight it. Don't fight that. Just embrace it. But yeah, so hopefully that helped. I am going to sign off, Lena, but I will let you stay as long as you want with everybody to kind of, ahas, ask questions and follow up. So if that's okay, I'm gonna hop off.